Welcome to episode 119 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. It's February 27, 1977. We are at La Bombonera in Buenos Aires. The ticket says Argentina versus Hungary at 6 p.m., a friendly on paper, a statement in reality. Because Argentina are building toward a home World Cup and their country is living under a military dictatorship. Football is not just football, it's noise, pressure, identity, and sometimes distraction. And somewhere in the middle of that, a 16-year-old sits on the bench in the number 19 shirt, trying to not look like a kid, trying to not explode with nerves. His name is Diego Armando Maradona. This is the day the world's most complicated football genius first becomes Argentina's. Now, to tell this story properly, we have to start with the idea of GOATs and the uncomfortable truth that the game always had them, long before TV, marketing, and global awards made them household names. Before Messi, there was Maradona. And before Maradona, there was Pelé. And before Pelé, there was Di Stefano and Puskas. And in every era, the sport keeps producing the same kind of figure, the player who bends what is possible until everyone else has to update their definition of greatness. In 1977, the world is still arguing about who sits at the top of football's mountain. Cruyff has already changed how football looks. Beckenbauer has already changed how it's governed on the pitch. And Pelé has already turned the World Cup into mythology. And then Argentina produces something else, a street footballer with a scientist's control of the ball, a kid whose talent is so glaring that it becomes a national conversation before he's even old enough to vote. But how did we get here? Diego's story begins where so many great football stories begin, in poverty, in a crowded house, in a country where the ball is a second language. He's spotted early, not because he's promising, but because everyone can see the same thing instantly. The ball stays with him in a way it doesn't stay with the other children. By 10, he's pulled into Argentinos Juniors' youth machine, Los Cebollitas, the Little Onions, a famous nursery team that became a traveling show. People came to watch the children's team because of one child. And the legends start piling up fast. A youth side that goes unbeaten for what feels like forever, and a kid who turns matches into highlights before highlights are even a concept. Then comes the professional debut, October 1976. Maradona steps into the Argentine Primera División 10 days before turning 16. He's wearing number 16. He's tiny, and within minutes he nutmegs a defender so cleanly that it becomes a symbol. The boy is not intimidated by the adult world. He's here to embarrass it. In Football Med Argentina, that kind of moment doesn't stay local. It becomes lore overnight. And 4 months later, César Luis Menotti calls. Menotti is building an Argentina that will host the World Cup in 1978. He's a philosopher coach, obsessed with style, with intelligence, with a national identity of football that feels like art, not survival. But he's also a builder under pressure, because this is Argentina in the mid-70s, tension in the streets, propaganda in the air, and a global tournament approaching like a deadline. So when Menotti summons the 16-year-old, it tells you something. The talent is too loud to ignore. The call-up itself is treated like a secret. Tell your parents, but don't tell anyone else. Come into camp, keep your head down, and be ready. And now we're back at La Bombonera, Argentina versus Hungary, friendly match, February 27, 1977. But the match doesn't feel friendly for long. Argentina fly. Daniel Bertoni scores early. Then again, Leopoldo Luque adds one. Bertoni completes the first half hat-trick. At the break it's 4-0. And the stadium already has that special Buenos Aires mood, half celebration, half demand for more. Early in the second half, Luque makes it 5, and then Hungary pull one back just after the hour. Now it's 5-1, and that's when Menotti does something that would echo for decades. He turns to the bench and sends on the kid. In the 62nd minute, Diego Maradona replaces Leopoldo Luque, number 19 on his back, 16 years, 3 months, and 28 days old. Still the youngest man ever to debut for Argentina's senior national team. And for a moment, the match is no longer about the score. It's about the future entering the present. Maradona touches the ball, and you can feel what the crowd is scanning for. Not, is he good, but is he different? He gets a pass that opens space in front of him. He slips past a man. He shapes for goal. He creates one real chance, and it doesn't go in. But it doesn't matter. The scoreboard doesn't record what the stadium understands. Argentina have just handed the shirt to a phenomenon. Now comes the aftermath. And it's one of the cruelest twists in international football, because the World Cup is coming in 1978. Argentina will host it, Argentina will win it, and Menotti will not take Maradona. He says the kid is too young, too raw for the weight, too early. It becomes a national argument and an open wound for Diego. He's devastated. The dream is right there, on home soil, and he's watching it from outside the stadium. And then the strangest part. Argentina lifted the trophy in June 1978 without him. So how is that talked about? It becomes a paradox that follows Maradona for years. The greatest Argentine player anyone has ever seen. He wasn't there for Argentina's first World Cup win. Menotti is vindicated by the result, but the question lingers like smoke. What would it have looked like with Diego? And Diego's response is very Diego. He doesn't disappear. He returns with rage and brilliance. In 1979, he leads Argentina's youth team to world glory, the tournament that feels like the universe correcting itself. The world watches him properly, and it becomes obvious. The problem was never talent. The problem was timing. Then come the World Cups. 1982, his first, still young, still learning the uglier side of elite football, the kicking, the provocation, the traps, and that red card against Brazil. 1986, the peak, the masterpiece, the tournament where he seems to carry a whole nation on his left foot. And yes, the England match is the essence of him in 2 goals. The genius that's undeniable, and the hand of God controversy that never leaves. And 1990, the other side of greatness, a tournament of pain, pressure, and survival, where he drags Argentina to another final in a body that is already beginning to show the cost. In 1993, one last piece of silverware. Argentina win the Artemio Franchi Cup against Denmark, Maradona's final trophy in the shirt. But because this is Maradona, the arc can never just stay heroic. In the World Cup qualifiers for 94, Argentina stumbled hard, and the country calls for the talisman again. Diego returns, the circus returns, the hope returns, and they qualify. And at USA 94, you see a final flash, that famous celebration, the eyes, the electricity, and the sense that the old demon can still conjure magic. And then the fall, a failed drug test, expulsion. The tournament moves on without him, and his international career ends not with a farewell match, but with a door slammed shut. Later he comes back to Argentina again, not as a player, but as a national coach. Even on the bench, he remains a gravitational force, adored, debated, complicated, impossible to ignore. So what does February 27, 1977 ultimately mean? It's not just a debut. It's the first time Argentina touched the live wire, the first time they put a national badge on a player who would become more than a footballer. Maradona becomes a global icon because he contains contradictions the world recognizes. The poor kid who humiliates the powerful, the artist who breaks rules, the leader who inspires worship, and the self-destructive genius who keeps walking to walk the edge. He gave football joy in its purest form. He also gave football a warning about what happens when a human being becomes a symbol too early, too intensely, and too completely. And if you zoom out to the GOAT line, that's his permanent place. Maradona is the bridge between eras, between the mythic age of Pelé, Beckenbauer, and Cruyff, and the industrial age of Messi and Ronaldo. He's football's most human god. So 3 things to take away. First, greatness existed long before the modern media machine, but Maradona was built for it. Even in 77, you can feel the sport reorganizing around him. Second, the most important decisions in football aren't always on the pitch. Menotti leaving him out of 78 shaped Maradona's story almost as much as 86 did. And third, Maradona's legacy is not clean, and that's why it endures. He represents football at its highest altitude and its lowest basement, often in the same breath. On this day in 1977, a 16-year-old Diego Maradona debuted for Argentina at La Bombonera, and football's most explosive, exhausting, unforgettable international career began in the number 19 shirt. That's all for episode 119 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Lost Guy. If you enjoyed this one, please follow the show, leave a rating, and share it with a fellow football historian. Tomorrow, episode 120, 28th of February, 1993, Egypt versus Zimbabwe, a World Cup qualifier that turned violent in the stands, with stones thrown, campaigns disrupted, and the stadium security rewritten. If you got ideas, corrections, or a story you want me to chase, you can always reach me at OTD at 17lawsguy.com. See you tomorrow.